On May 20, 2025, a lot of newspapers and news programs ran some variation of the headline, UN says that 14,000 babies will starve to death in Gaza within the next 48 hours. This was, of course, blatant lies. However, as we all know, lies travels faster than facts. And the next day, a young couple got shot in Washington, D.C. as a result. Words do matter. Words have consequences. And right now, we're living in a complete information apocalypse. I saw, however, quite quickly that this is obviously lies, while a lot of my friends and family members didn't, which surprised me because they're otherwise intelligent, well-traveled, well-informed people. I asked myself, how comes people really don't understand that this is utter garbage? I used to work in war zones and conflict zones like Afghanistan, Libya, Egypt, and so on. And some of the things I did was to work with the US military and the US State Department and other organizations with information operations and psychological operations, which includes stuff like social science research, media monitoring and analysis, and so on, which is probably why I did understand it more than my family and friends. Right, because I had worked with it, I was trained to see where media biases comes from, how news spreads, who to take seriously, who to not, how to verify sources, and so on. But not everyone has access to that sort of information or system of thinking, those tools. This is why I built Poliscope in order to democratize the information environment so that everyone can have access to analysis level understanding of their information environment and thus both understand it better and also counter it. I built first version of Poliscope, which I will show you now. When you open the app, which is currently a web app, it's pree-Alpha. First, you see the days on the left side. So that's basically which day you are and how many items have loaded. And then you can reload or upload more items depending on how they come in. Here you have research. Research fetches different results from polls, from surveys, and so on. Right now, everything is set to be focused on the Middle East, but obviously you can set it to whichever region you want. But I specifically have mine tuned for Israel-centric Middle Eastern paradigm. And then you can choose which one to pick. So let's say American views of Israelis have grown increasingly negative. Okay, let's pick that one. So that's going to show up in our daily brief later on. Okay, Donald Trump's approval rating has changed during Iran ceasefire. Well, yeah, pick. Okay, that's interesting to follow as well. All Israelis lose confidence in Trump after Iran deal. Yeah, okay. Only 15 Israelis believe Israel won the war with Iran, survey finds. Well, that's kind of old news. We've seen that for a couple of days already, so no need to pick that. And then here we have media. So for the media section, so basically here you see Jerusalem Post about Qatar vetoes Volkswagen deal with Israeli defense company Rafale in Germany. That's very interesting. So let's pick that. We never know what Qatar thinks, right? And so it's very interesting to see how they meddle or don't in various things. Qatar in talks with US, Iran to de-escalate crisis in two nations. Here is Al Arabiya. Iran will respond against Israel if infrastructure attacked. The security, okay, yeah, let's pick that. That's also interesting. Here is Press TV. Press TV is an Iranian propaganda outlet financed by the Iranian state. Iran will continue on martyred leaders' path of dignity, steadfastness, armorship. Okay, yeah, we don't have to flag that because that's just posturing. Okay, so here's another one from Press TV. Israel wipes out villages, attacks civilians after US deal with Lebanese government. Press TV. Okay, so this is obviously propaganda, and we're going to flag it under propaganda, which we can then later on track. The National UAE, the National is a United Arab Emirates-based newspaper. So Syria and Gospel sanctions-free era, that's interesting for regional stability. Saudi Arabia condemns repeated Iranian attacks on Kuwait. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't pick that because that's just posturing and they always condemn attacks. So Syrian authorities say captured ISIS-linked cell behind Blas al-Sharaq. Okay, we'll pick that. That's interesting. Speculations moves over public appearance with Mujtaba to lead conference prayers for late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. So we will tag that under rumor. I'm not going to go through all the media stuff right now because it's quite a lot. But I've still configured it so it wouldn't be too overwhelming for me because I'm just an individual, right? I don't have like a big sort of team that I'm working with. I want my media environment concise and to the point. But that's obviously something that people can choose how much or how little they want. And then socials, these are basically X contests from OSINT, CENTCOM, and others. Okay, so let's see if we have something interesting here. Kind of posturing, but yeah, it's true. We're all a little bit confused about what Trump is saying and what isn't. We'll pick that just for the humor. Some of the things President Trump said about Iran this week, called Iran's leaders scam, sick people, evil people, dirty players, liars. Okay, we'll all appreciate his frank language. Yeah, just for the humor factor. Okay, officials. So officials is when like governments or embassies or UN or whatever make statements. I don't personally pay too much attention to it because it's always posturing. Security Council adopts a draft decision by Qatar to reinstate Syria's rights and privileges. That's kind of interesting to see how Qatar is posturing itself in terms of Syria. So let's pick that. And then here are rumors. You can either search rumors, you can add your claim, what fiat are it in, meaning what country or what region, if it's verified, to what level it's confidence, and then add notes, create rumor. But now I'm going to look at a rumor that we already created together just now, the one from the Gulf News, speculation mounts over rare public appearance of Mushtaba to lead condolence prayers for late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's funeral. Gulf News. Let's open that and see what it says. So we can see here the narrative ratio. We can edit the rumor. Here is a workbench that is for video and media forensics. You'll be able to upload a video or a photo and check if it's from another time period or if it's AI edited or if it has watermarks or other things. And then obviously the notes from research. This ties to narratives in order to tie it to a deeper narrative. So in this case, the narrative would be that Mushtaba is still alive, which goes into the greater narrative of, the IRGC is still doing well. So there you have rumor ledger and the narrative workbench. If we go back to the example I said before, let's say Mushtaba is still alive. Then you can add all of those things in. It links to the article or to where it comes from. And then you can follow the narrative over time. So let's go back. Here we have signals. Signals is divided into two parts. One is the conspiracy pressure index. So basically we have taken known conspiracy words such as false flag attack and stuff like that and looked at how many times people search for it on Google on a daily basis. And then we categorized it by country. And then we have the same in Arabic and in Farsi. And here, if you scroll down, you can see which exact search tags have been used. And here to the right, you have market signals from Polymarket for the last 24 hours. I guess most of you are familiar with a betting market. For instance, here, will the Iranian regime fall before 2027? Then we can see what people think. These are useful indicators too. And here is a network. This is one of the more complex parts. So here, if I click on a country, let's say Spain, here you can read about Spain. You can see all the ministries it's connected to, links, media organizations, the people, the various influencers, and then you just scroll what are the state-owned medias or which are the state-influenced media, so which are radical groups connected to the country, who are the main influences in the country, both positive or negative, and so on. So that's useful to quickly visually get a grip of what a person or let's say terrorist group or a media outlet or an influencer is, for instance. And here, when you go to organ, you can see exactly how many nodes it is, like what it's connected to, how it connects, what type of connection, who funds what kind of bias, and so on. So you can go very, very deep into that. So here is one sample story. So you see the lifeline of a story, how it spreads to who is behind it, and who is connected to who is funded to who. And then in the last part, we have analysis. So here you have signal fusions. This is where fuse odds that we have collected elsewhere, like the signals, the conspiracy pressure index, the market signals, and the media mentions if they are positive, negative, median, research, the poll, the service shows, and so on. Here it fuses everything. So various topics are tracked. In this example, it's the Lebanon war, Abraham Accords normalization, Iran escalation, and then it tracks it every day if it's positive, negative, and so on. And here when you click on Brief Writer, now we can create a briefing for ourselves or for our team that we can send out. I'm going to click on Generate here, the Daily Espresso Brief, and then you can see everything that we clicked on is here. So overnight Delta picks, key events, propaganda, narrative, confirmed claims, risk today, shipping energy spillover signal, and the links with the receipts. And you can also do that weekly and monthly. So that was all the main sections. And here on the side to the right, you see item. That's in time you click on media outlet or socials, you see it enlarged, so you don't have to click to go to the actual source, although you can because the link to the source is there as well, should you so wish for. And here you see directly the source context, the region, the biases, the audiences, everything you need to know. In sources, you see a list of all the sources, which you can click on, and then you can also see them obviously on the network map. And here are projects. Whenever you see an article or a survey or something that's interesting and relating to a project you work on, you can just go here and then you add, let's say, so I've added a couple of opinion polls to this, personal statement, public notes, and so on. And then you can export it into notes or to XML to put it on a map, for instance, or you can just have it there for your own project notes or, put it in the report later on. Yeah, so that's it. Everything is live now. You can access it through the Substack, and it only costs $10 a month. I hope this walkthrough was great and you enjoyed it. And if there is something you are wondering about or want to see more of or less of, or any functions you don't understand, or any media outlet you think we haven't covered, or any survey agency you would like to add into it, any ideas, please write it in the comment. Also like and subscribe. And also, if you want to support me, so first of all, Substack is the most important, where you can also access the software, which I just showed you, and also buy my book about AI governance, the future of AI governance. Thank you so much.